All right, so we're here to talk about The Devil's Double, which is a very violent, entertaining kind of crime drama based on the life of Latif Yahia, if I'm saying his name right, um, who is a guy that he was an Iraqi war soldier, or maybe higher up. He was in the Iraqi army during the 80s, and he got recruited by Saddam Hussein's son, Uday, to be his body double. And I went into this with really no expectations at all. I'd heard very little about it, but I was interested in seeing it because I had known how bad Saddam's sons were, especially Uday. I remember reading this Playboy article way back in the day, back when they were like still alive. Like we're talking like 10 years ago, just talking about how crazy these guys were. And so I was interested to see it because of that. But I mean, as for the film, I didn't know anything about it, and I didn't know anything about this guy Latif, or what went on when he was made a body double. But I was just like, this is interesting. You don't get to see movies about this shit really. Uh, you know, about the Saddam Hussein regime and the late 80s and early 90s, and especially I don't think a lot of people know about his sons and how really crazy they were. Um, and the movie really, really surprised me. Like it's very, like I said, violent and entertaining. You might expect it to be violent, knowing anything about these guys, but um, and one of the main reasons to see it, besides it just being a fun movie, is the performance by Dominic Cooper, who plays both Uday and Latif. He's playing both of these guys, and gives a brilliant performance or dual performance where he creates two very distinct and different, totally different characters that couldn't be more different than each other. This Latif guy is like an army guy who's like reserved, he's quiet. He has his head together and stuff, and then he's playing Uday, who is a completely insane, like sociopath, criminal that's just high on cocaine and raping and killing and torturing people. Just a completely insane screen villain. Um, I think one of the best villains I've seen in a long time. And not only is it great because he's giving these two great performances that are so different, but when you factor in the fact that he is often it's often these two guys on the screen. It's often Latif and Uday. So when you think about it, Dominic Cooper had to play against himself, which means through half of the movie or through most of the movie, he's sitting there acting against nothing and trying to remember what he did when he shot the scene the other way. Brilliant performance. I think the guy deserves an Oscar, really. Um, and I think if he doesn't get like at least nomination, the Academy is fucking crazy stupid. Um, but as for the film itself, besides that, I mean, that alone should be enough for you to want to see it. But I think what really makes this movie work is the fact that it decides not to be a biopic, even though it's based on this guy's life. It doesn't do the typical biopic bullshit, which is let's try to tell his whole life in 2 hours, or let's stick completely to the truth and the facts of what happened. Instead, at some point in this movie, they kind of give up on that and they're like, let's just make an entertaining movie and fuck what the facts are, which is how you do this shit, if you ask me. It's not the movie's job to be truthful to what the real life events were. The movie's job is to make an entertaining film. And if you're too lazy to go and find out things that really happened on your own, and you're gonna take what a movie tells you as fact, like if you watch Titanic and you're like, that's how it really was, then you're a fucking idiot. And I just picked Titanic out of the air, but That's what makes it work. My biggest worry through the whole thing is I'm sitting there going, well, there could never be any satisfaction. Because, first of all, basically what it is this guy gets recruited forcibly. Like, he's forced to go work for Uday and get, surgery done on him to make him look more the same and, like, trained to look like him and talk like him and shit. And this guy gets, like, his life is over. Like, he doesn't get to contact his family. His family thinks that he died in a war. Um, he's basically Uday's bitch, does whatever Uday, you know, tells him, or he'll get killed and he'll kill his whole family. And he's basically living day by day, being terrorized by a psychopath and seeing this guy do horrendous, atrocious things to other human beings, and he can't really say anything or do anything about it. Except for when the guy goes so far that he like feels like he has to say something, but he knows he can't cross the line. So basically, this movie is like this guy being a slave, and it's cool. Like, it works on a story and movie level because it's like you are in Latif's shoes. You're like, holy shit. Because basically, like, Uday steals the show. And it's all about how crazy Saddam Hussein's sons were in that whole regime and that whole time, that era. But it's told through this prism of this guy that he's just a normal citizen. Well, he was a soldier, but he gets, sucked into this. And he's just like the normal guy, like, outsider looking at it, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I can't believe this is going on. But you really feel bad for the guy. You're really on his side. You're like hoping he could get out of this, and you really want to see Uday get fucked up at the end. But the whole time you're like, well, there could never be any satisfaction for Latif, and there can't be any satisfaction for you seeing Uday get killed because you know how it ends in real life. You know that Uday and what's the other guy, Kusei or whatever, they get fucked up in the second Iraq war with the United States. When George Bush, dumb fuck, was president. And I don't want to spoil it, but I'll just say that the movie does not give a fuck about the facts when it comes to that. The movie's like, we need a satisfying, story here. Um, that said, the ending does feel a little bit like it just happened so fast and rushed. You feel like you want more enjoyment out of the ending. And there could have been a little bit of a denouement at the end. Um, and also, that said, most of what happens in the movie actually did happen. So, instances such where Uday sends Latif to Basra to give a speech and this and that. And that really happened. Okay? Or Uday going out on the streets and picking up schoolgirls that are like underage and raping and killing them and dumping their bodies. That stuff really happened. And the violence is really crazy in it. I just mentioned him picking up schoolgirls and raping them. That stuff they don't go gratuitous on, and they don't have to, because there are scenes where they do go really far with the violence. So that you don't need to see like what you don't want to see him do shit to little girls, but you don't need to see it because like the horror has already put in your mind of what this guy would do. That's almost more effective when they don't show you what he does to some of these people, but you do get to see people getting tortured and stuff. Most of it is on a videotape that they show Latif. Like, look at this. This is what we do. But there is some crazy violence that, if I'm being honest, is pretty damn fun. I remember there is a scene where I won't give the details of it because I don't want to ruin the scene, but someone does get disemboweled. And I remember when I saw that scene, I was like, whoa, holy fuck. And I remember I tweeted right at that moment, I'm like, this movie just crossed the line into awesome. Like, but when that moment happens, I'm like, this movie is just fucking awesome. It's just a blast. And that's mostly what the movie is like this guy, like, they make it out in some of the synopses you'll see is like, oh, this guy develops a romance with this girl who is one of Uday's women, so that creates drama. And it's like that does happen. There is a girl played by a French actress, Ludivine Sagnier. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but she was in this movie Swimming Pool. She's pretty hot, but she's one of like Uday's mistresses, like his main one. I don't know if you could call her mistress because he doesn't have a wife. I think that's how that works, but it's like his main bitch, right? And she's always eyeing Latif because Latif is a normal fucking person, and she feels trapped by Uday too. And there's like a romance, like a very dangerous romance that builds between them. But the main story of the film is this guy trapped in a very horrific situation that he wants to get out of. That's playing out against real historical events, and as such, I think it works really well. I think it's the movie it runs the risk of being too gimmicky and just relying on this great performance by Dominic Cooper, but his performances are grounded in a story that is gripping. It's compelling. So I have nothing really but good things to say. Like I said, I felt like the ending could have been a little bit better, but it was still satisfying. Um, I really think people need to check this movie out. It had a very limited run in theaters. Wasn't really in that many theaters, and I don't know why. Because I think maybe the studios were afraid because it was about the Hussein clan. But if you could have just marketed it as like a gangster picture, which is what the director, if you watch the extras, I don't know, do you want to say his name? Director Lee Samahori, that's what he was going for. He's like, dude, I wanted to just make a gangster picture. Like, yeah, I wanted it to be about this interesting real life thing, but I wasn't worried about making a biopic or being totally true to what happened. And this director, he hasn't done a lot of like what I would consider. I haven't seen most of this stuff, honestly. Once We're Warriors, 1994, never seen it. 2002 James Bond film, Die Another Day. I've never seen a James. Oh no, wait, I've seen Casino Royale. So he hasn't done a lot that I was just like, really. There's nothing that I've seen The Edge by him, and I was not impressed. I know a lot of people really like that movie. I don't. He also did an episode of The Sopranos, so I've seen that. But he put what he did on The Sopranos to work here because this is a great gangster picture. One of the better gangster pictures in a long, long time. So, it's weird. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars, but this is definitely going in my top 10 of the year, which I will be doing soon on this channel. So be sure to tune in for that. But check out this movie, man. It's a good time. And if you didn't know about like what Uday was all about, you're gonna be pretty shocked, actually. But it's just an interesting story, even if it's not all true. This really happened. There is a Latif Yahia, or there is or was. I don't want to spoil anything, but Latif Yahia, that's a real person, and you'll probably, like me, be inspired to go find out, more about this story after seeing the movie, which is that's pretty high praise. And the movie's it's a fun movie despite like the dark material. I thought it was a blast. So that's my thoughts on it. 4 out of 5, but leaning towards 5 at points. Like it's really that good. It was a big surprise, and my co-host on Movie Dudes, Chris Scott, he enjoyed it quite a bit as well. He gave it the same rating. So yeah, I can't really sell it any more than that. Go see The Devil's Double, rent it, do whatever you gotta do, see it. Check back soon. I will be giving my thoughts soon on my favorite films of the year. All right, later, guys.